Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's the Milestone edition of 200 shows. It's week 25 of 2025, and I'm Alexander Leibner. And a very, very special welcome to you if you're listening for the very first time, or if you are a regular listener, or you've been listening for the last 200 shows. Wherever you are, in Johannesburg or Pretoria, in Gauteng, or across South Africa, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, if it's online or on air, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. And Vincenzo is back behind the mixing desk looking very celebratory. But it is something to celebrate. It's our milestone of 200 shows this week. And what a journey it has been. When the Sandton Times Hour first hit the airwaves and also the streaming platforms, it started as a passion project during lockdown. An idea to bring the stories, the people, and the pulse of Sandton and beyond to life in a unique, audible, and engaging way. And here we are, 200 shows later, with a community of listeners who have made every minute worth it. To our guests over the years, entrepreneurs, celebrities, change makers, creatives, and even the occasional entertainment commentator, thank you for sharing your insights and adding your voice to this growing platform. And your stories continue to inspire everybody listening. To the team behind the scenes, your commitment, creativity, and caffeine-fueled days and nights are the unsung symphony that keep this show going. And of course, you listening, whether you've been with us from the first episode or just discovered us last week, thank you. And thank you for tuning in, streaming the podcast, and making the Sandton Times Hour part of your weekly routine. A very special shout out to my family and friends, as well as my folks, who make a point of listening every single week and providing a brisk evaluation after each show. Thank you to you. It really means the world to me. Here's to the next 200 shows, bigger stories, bolder conversations, and plenty of good laughs along the way. Stay curious and stay connected. Having said all of that, I hope you had a superb youth day and an extended weekend. So let's have a look at what we're talking about this week. In a bit, I'll be taking a look at a troubling relationship with alcohol and an initiative that looks to reframe liquor communication in South Africa. Take a listen. After that, I connect with one of South Africa's most successful young fashion entrepreneurs about his latest store in Sandton. And then we reconnect with our regular commentator to chat about all things entertainment. And finally, there's a new mega campus coming to Sandton, and I'll be bringing you all the details. This and more is coming up in the next hour, but I'd also like to hear from you. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can send through your questions, your comments, your feedback, your input. You can use the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za, connect on social media @Sandton Times. Also, hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za. And if you're not part of our podcast community, be sure to subscribe to that. The Sandton Times Hour is on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, AfriPods, Podcast Party, and so many more. And be sure to like and subscribe.
Show some love.
subscribe, share,
Leave a review and rating for the Sandton Times Hour
on your favorite podcast app now.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
A new initiative hopes to shake up the way South Africa's alcohol industry communicates with the public, and it's called Small Print, Big Impact. It's a move towards a greater accountability, transparency, and responsibility in how alcohol is marketed across the country. And joining us to unpack what this all means for brands, for consumers, and for the future of the industry is Angela Russell. She's the CEO of the Drinks Federation of South Africa, and she's here to share some insights into the campaign, the importance of the alcohol industry communication code of conduct, and why ethical marketing isn't just a box-ticking exercise, but an actual cultural shift. And Angela, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you very much for having me.
Angela, as we get into this, what prompted the launch of the Small Print Big Impact initiative, and why is now the right time for a campaign like this?
The industry's code of conduct for alcohol marketing, promotion, and advertising has been around for a while. But really what we have been doing over the last year, we've refreshed it and we're trying to make sure that all people are aware of this. And small print, big impact really talks to the detail around, that the small print makes a difference with regards to alcohol advertising. And although the majority of advertisers, big manufacturers, retailers are very, very familiar and adhere to the code, we are finding a lot of small wine farms advertising, craft breweries, craft distilleries popping up that might not particularly know about the regulations and self-regulatory code that we have around the marketing and advertising of alcohol. So that's why we have brought this to the fore, so that we make sure that we are spreading the net wide and that there is a more general awareness from, manufacturers, retailers and outlets who are actually advertising alcohol.
So I think this is an important point, maybe for those people who are not in this industry, who are not dealing with this kind of regulatory environment. You mentioned it's a self-regulating code. So this means the industry has taken the decision themselves to regulate before having to be regulated by a government body or a ministry or whoever who feels that they need to intervene because of whatever reason. Is that right?
So we do have advertising regulations in the country, but absolutely we have taken it a step further. And I think, what you find in some countries, about of 164 countries, 23% have absolutely no regulations. You had 53% that have a combination of regulations and advertising standards, which is where we are. So we do have guidelines that we provide to the industry. And I think it's very important because of the nature of the product that we have. We also are very concerned with the level of underage drinking that we have in this country. And therefore, we want to ensure that we are advertising in a responsible and ethical manner.
What are some of the most important provisions in this code of conduct to protect consumers and those people who purchase or are exposed to some sort of marketing around alcohol?
So we cover three main aspects with this code. We look at where the content of the advert, as well as the placement of adverts, as well as the technical aspects related to responsible drinking messages. So, for example, from a placement point of view, there's no advertising allowed on, for example, TV and radio, only after 7 p.m. at night until 6 o'clock in the morning, and on weekends from 12 in the afternoon till 6 a.m. Also, the placement of these adverts, the programs need to have at least more than 70% of the audience needs to be over the age of 18. From a content point of view, we make sure that we're encouraging responsible drinking. We do not want to glamorize excessive consumption, nor do we want to appeal to minors or other vulnerable groups. And I'm going to give a quick example here. Previously, we had a retailer in a broadsheet in one of the areas offering promotions to people with old age grants or disability grants or, childhood grants, which we found was actually immoral and a little bit unethical. So these are the kind of things that we do look out for. We also want to ensure that all the relevant health and safety warnings are very clearly communicated on the labels, as well as within the adverts themselves. Ensure that we are depicting adults drinking responsibly in appropriate settings, avoiding misleading claims that, for example, suggest social success or increased performance, or even things like overcoming social inhibitions. So we had one company that came to us proactively in their conception phase who were thinking about doing an advert with a group of friends, and one of the friends actually comes out in the social setting. And we said that would be inappropriate because that would then indicate, overcoming inhibition. So we do have proactive engagements with companies as well. There's guidelines, for example, on the use of celebrities in adverts, promoters and what promoters can wear and how old these promoters should be, sports sponsorship. So it's a very broad range of guidelines that we're giving. And one that we're currently looking at amending actually relates to advertising on vehicles. So we have stopped large delivery vehicles from being advertised on because they are moving billboards, but we are in process of looking at all vehicles. So, for example, including buses, yachts, cable cars, etc., So we actually are going to stop advertising on any other form of transportation as well. So we're also trying to be proactive in what we are doing from an industry point of view.
Well, let's dive into the social media realm, because that seems to, in many instances, seems a bit like the Wild West. I mean, at the moment, it feels like anything goes. And one of the things that I've picked up on is that there's this trend of alcohol brands organizing events where they get young influencers who are styled to portray a very lavish lifestyle, and it's a curated event, and they get professional photographers and videographers involved. And these young influencers are obviously thrilled because they get to shine in all their glory. They get free content. They then amplify this across their social media channels. And somehow I feel that this directly conflicts with the principles and the things that you've just outlined, because these influencers are not checking what age their followers are or if this is in line with any regulatory guideline. And at the same time, I feel like the alcohol companies are kind of unleashing something here that they also can't really control.
Yeah, and I think it is an area that we do need to put some focus on. The code is not perfect, and it isn't ever evolving thing. So I do believe we need to put some more focus on there. But there are very specific guidelines from an advertising point of view that the Advertising Regulatory Board, who oversees the self-regulatory code for us, has pertaining to online influencers, etc. So we do have, education sessions with the retailers and manufacturers around what can and can't be done in conjunction with the Advertising Regulatory Board. But you are quite right. There is opportunity for us to tighten this up. And we are we do work together with the IIOD, which is the International Association of Responsible Drinking, who have, quite strong guidelines on online advertising and within social media. So it is an area of focus that we do need to do. But I also do believe that the brands are aware of this and do take necessary controls where possible to ensure that we have, more responsible online advertising.
I always think brands like a little bit of a grey area, but if there are people in the public that are listening who would like to contribute to keeping everybody ethical and on the straight and narrow, what can they do to ensure that brands are responsible in what they do? Is there a body that they can turn to if they feel that someone's overstepped the line, like you highlighted in that broadsheet example?
Absolutely. So the Advertising Regulatory Board oversees our code of conduct, as they do a number of other industries. They can be contacted online at the arb.org.za. So that's arb.org.za. And what the process would be is that they have an online facility for a written complaint. The written complaint needs to be, in quite a lot of detail with photos, etc. And this will then go through to their internal process for review. And, definitely changes are made. Changes definitely are made. We've seen adverts being withdrawn from the market. We often see quite prompt, remediation taking place where adverts are changed or, as I said, completely withdrawn. So it is a very effective process. And even from a, promotion, we do get a lot of promotional complaints where the one retailer might have had a price promotion that they were not happy with. But likewise, also picking up things where we had one, for example, where one of the brands was portraying their advert on a beach. And we know that drinking alcohol on a beach is not allowed within the law of South Africa. So this was also something that was challenged and changed. So we're always looking for consumers to keep us honest. And I think, they are the eyes and ears out there, and we encourage them, if they do see something that they are not happy with, to report it to the Advertising Regulatory Board.
I'm in chatting to Angela Russell. She's the CEO of the Drinks Federation of South Africa, about this new move towards greater accountability, transparency and responsibility, and how alcohol is marketed across the country, and obviously its impact on those who are vulnerable and those who are underage. And of course, everybody likes a glass of something, but I think it's the responsibility part that plays a critical role, that it doesn't get abused, and obviously, it unleashes some of the things that we do see in society, unfortunately, in South Africa. Angela, thanks for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Time for a quick break, and more of the Sandton Times Hour right after this.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
One of South Africa's boldest and most iconic fashion brands, GALXBOY, opened the doors to its newest and most prestigious retail space yet, right here in Sandton. From its rebellious beginnings in 2008 to becoming a symbol of youth identity in South African style, GALXBOY has grown into a cultural powerhouse blending global fashion trends with authentic local flavor. What started as a provocative t-shirt has become a full-blown lifestyle worn proudly by artists, influencers, and tastemakers across the continent. And now with its 14th store nationwide and this flagship in the heart of what may be called South Africa or Africa's richest square mile, GALXBOY isn't just launching another shop, it's making a statement. And joining us right now is the man behind the movement, Thatiso Dube. He's the founder and creative director of GALXBOY, to talk about his journey, the vision, and what this new chapter in Sandton means for the brand and beyond. And Thatiso, it's such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Well, congratulations on the new Sandton flagship store. What does this particular store opening mean to you personally?
I mean, it's the richest square mile in Africa, so it's a shop we've been waiting for a while, and I think maybe almost 2 years now waiting for the shop. So it's a great achievement for the brand, and yeah, it's something very great for us.
Thatiso, from a single T-shirt to 14 stores nationwide, let's take a rewind back to 2008. And what inspired you to create the brand GALXBOY?
I started the brand in high school, right? But I was just selling it to my friends, so I didn't know we were allowed to actually own our own brand, because I just only used to see your Nikes, your Adidas, etc. So as soon as I discovered, there was a brand I discovered called I'm a Geep, then I found out no, it was owned by a black guy. So I thought, okay, that means I can do it too. So that's when basically the journey started. I researched more about fashion and where it's made, etc. Then the brand started from there. But I think I registered everything around 2012. That's when it started being in the streets.
Yeah, and it's been rooted in youth culture. It's got a bit of a rebellious nature. And how do you balance that with now growing into a very mainstream space like Sandton, where you're also going to start having a lot of internationals shopping and wanting to buy into the brand?
Yeah, so the aim for our brand is to make luxury streetwear affordable. So we're basically bringing all types of people to Sandton, to experience the luxury culture of Sandton with us. So that's our goal, basically, to bring everyone to see this richest square mile.
Is there something different to the Sandton store compared to some of the other shops? I mean, have you just created a space that's retail, or is there a little bit more to it?
Pretty much all the stores pretty much look the same, and in every mall. Sandton, obviously, the only difference is it's the richest square mile, so you probably bump into a celebrity or two while you're shopping, you know what I mean? So that's probably the difference.
Streetwear is evolving very fast globally and locally. How do you keep that edge whilst also remaining very South African?
The only way to keep up is to stay in the streets, So I'm always researching what's going on. I'm always on the net. I'm always asking the young guys what's happening. So yeah, they have to stay in the streets to be relevant. There's no other way.
Yeah. I was thinking about this now, Tati. So I was doing a bit of traveling over the last couple of months, and every single time I go to places, like the UK, France, Spain, you keep coming across stores that are essentially borrowing our identity as South Africans, be it from our animal prints to some of our sort of very traditional designs to, sort of the way we do things in terms of fashion,
Yeah.
And as local South African designers, how do we make sure that we're part of that global conversation, not just sort of outsourcing it to other designers around the world and letting them do their thing with some of our local heritage?
I think the best way is to go to those places and occupy those places. Obviously start at home, build your base, then get enough power to get into overseas. Because we recently launched our international website now. We ship all over the world. I think we've done about maybe 120 orders recently to places like Japan, UK, Dubai, America. So once that gets a bit stronger, we basically gonna go that side and pop up in these countries and eventually open stores, to occupy these spaces.
Where do you find inspiration for some of your new collections, some of your limited edition stuff?
Like I said, it's in the streets. Every day, everything I see every day contributes to our design. So yeah, I think the streets inspire me, basically.
Has there been an instance where you've walked in the street and you found something very unusual and it's become a sort of a hit inspiration for one of your collections?
Yeah, every time, because also I do travel a lot to different countries. So whatever I see there, I come back home with it, try it out, and it works.
It seems a lot of the brand is also very much built on community, and you've got a very strong following for the brand. How do you continue to nurture that community, and how much does that play a role in the success of the brand?
The best thing we do is we always put our customers first, no matter what. Even if in a day we get if 1,000 people tag us on Instagram, we're gonna repost 1,000 times. So we basically want to involve them in everything, and customers like being reposted, and because when they tag us, they're basically saying they're proud to wear the brand. So we also have to come back with the same energy and repost them and celebrate together their purchase, etc. So I think our biggest weapon is our customers and basically the quality of our clothes.
Now, if you have to look ahead, what's your ultimate vision for the brand? I mean, is it more stores? Is it more collabs? Is it a global takeover? Or are you going to do something completely different?
A global takeover is on top of the list for us. We have enough stores in South Africa right now. I think we have about 14 stores now. So we want to try out Africa, then obviously the rest of the world. But yeah, going global is at the top of our list.
Well, power to you, Thatiso, and I encourage everybody listening to go check out the new store, GALXBOY. I think it's opposite the Apple store in Sandton City, if you have a bit of an idea of where that is. And Thatiso Dube, founder and creative director of GALXBOY, great to have you, and thanks for being part of the Sandton Times Hour this week.
Thank you for having me, guys.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
And making sure the second half of the Sandton Times Hour is as fabulous as the first half. It's me, Alexander Leibner. And if there's anything that sounded good during the show, but you didn't get all the details, you can't remember what it was that we spoke about, or you just want to find out a little bit more, go onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and check out the show notes for this week's edition. And there'll be more to read, more to discuss, more to click on, and you'll get all the details that you want right there. And also, whilst you're at it, make sure that you follow the Sandton Times on your favorite social media account. And also, save the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. And you can send through your voice notes with your feedback, questions, comments, and so much more. And that's the exclusive Sandton Times Hour WhatsApp line. Now, it's a Youth Day show this week, and we're chatting all things youth. And of course, it's time for our weekly entertainment slot with our regular commentator, Tat Wolfen. And Tat, you've made some interesting observations in terms of how many big movies are coming out this year, very much targeting the youth.
Certainly. Look, I'm not going to be one of these grumpy old men who say, oh, damn youngsters, they should sit down and keep quiet.
Thank goodness.
Okay. And I'm very grateful for the fact that the youth have actually helped to rejuvenate the flagging cinemas in this country, because as you know, after all that lockdown nonsense, the cinemas were brought to their knees. It was they lost hundreds of millions of rands, and it is largely thanks to the youth audience and youth-oriented movies such as your Marvel movies and stuff that cinemas have managed to hang in there, and in fact now start to prosper again. So I think that's fantastic. But I just don't think that cinemas should rely solely on what they call the tentpole releases, which are those big sort of youth-oriented movies. I think that they should look to diversifying it again. I always draw the analogy of a bookstore. You can't keep a successful bookstore going if you're only selling the latest bestseller. You also have to sell books on the history of Grahamstown and the mating habits of the lesser spotted white leopard and all those geeky, nerdy things, because that's what makes a whole and complete bookstore. And a cinema you should be able to walk into a Cineplex and there should be, your action movie there, your sexy movie there, your documentary in this other theater. Give that whole spread. And I think that cinemas do need to reach out to older audiences and more specialized audiences. We recently spoke about that John and Yoko movie, which is a very specialized niche thing. They are doing it. They're showing the operas and the ballets and stuff like that, but there's no point in only showing them. They also need to find a way of accessing those audiences so that your possible audiences for those movies are aware that you're showing those movies and that they come to attend them.
There's certainly the temptation by cinemas to say, well, gee, these blockbusters like Lilo and Stitch and Jurassic Park and all these ones that appeal to a younger audience, they're doing so well. Let's scrap all the other ones and just do movies like this. And what you're saying is that, don't replace the one audience with the other. You kind of have to have a bit of a balance and a bit of texture, with a wider variety, because at the same time, you also want to entice young, new, fresh audiences of tomorrow, of the future, to fall in love with cinema at a young age.
I think you do need to, because it saddens me to think that there are a lot of young people who are watching movies on a cell phone. This is a movie that was created to be watched on a screen that's meters wide. It's had the sound mixed and multi-channel digital sound and this whole spectacular thing that hundreds of artists have worked on, and you're watching it on a cell phone. That's very sad. And it's also sad because a lot of young people are getting glued to their tablet and cell phone screens, and they're forgetting that there are other human beings around them. And of course, the cinema is a very social environment. And, and when there's something funny on screen, you all laugh together. Or if there's something scary on screen, you all gasp together. And that is part of the magic of cinema. Of course, cinema audiences are a lot more segmented these days than they used to be, because I'm going to use one of my favorite examples of the Radio City Music Hall in New York, which opened in 1929 and is still going. And as it was doing back then, they show movies in there and they also do live shows in there. Did you know that the Radio City Music Hall seats just under 6,000 people? And back in the day when they opened, the movie-going culture was very different. It would be like the latest Garbo movie has just come out, and everyone went to see the latest Garbo movie. The audiences weren't as split up as they are today. So you could fill that theater, 6,000 seats, night after night after night. You can't do that anymore. And particularly in a smaller market like South Africa, you can't fill big theaters, for a long stretch. Even with the big new tentpole releases. 6,000 seats is insane, isn't it? So we have to look at the segmented audiences, and it makes cinema more exciting because cineplexes, after all, have between, 5 and 15 in South Africa, different auditoria. So how nice it is if you're in a mall, you're not really sure what you're going to watch. You've been doing shopping or whatever, or you've gone to get your haircut or whatever, and you think, let's go watch a movie. And so you walk into the Cineplex, and there's just this whole range of things. There's action, there's romance, there's a documentary. That's what cinema needs to concentrate on these days. It's a different experience, but it's still cinema. And that's why I think the exhibition companies need to look at all the different aspects of their segmented audience and satisfy them all, and also find a way of talking to them. You need to be able to reach them.
Yeah, and like you said, these movies were made to be experienced in their full glory, with the full sound system, the full screen system, the way that the seats are positioned distance-wise from the screen, and it's just something you're not going to get on a cell phone.
You're definitely not going to get it. And now, of course, cinemas are even offering more specialized offerings, such as 4DX, which is kind of gimmicky, but it's fun. It's something that you're not going to experience watching a movie on a cell phone or even watching a movie at home. So they are doing these things. In fact, and I think I'm telling you something that's kind of strictly undercover, so if you can just keep it between you and me, right?
Absolutely.
When New Metro takes over the Gateway cinemas now in Durban, they're going to open a new kind of theatre, which is called Scene X or Screen X, I think it's called, which they already have in the States. And that is where you have screens all around the screen as well, all around your central movie screen that you're watching. And they don't show the actual detailed picture of the main screen, but it's like peripheral vision. So it's the colors and stuff that, when you normally look at something, what you're seeing in front of you is in focus and everything, and then you get this kind of wash of color and stuff, around you in your peripheral vision. And they're opening the first Screen X theatre in South Africa and possibly even in Africa. So yes, they are also bringing these other things. But even if it's just a regular cinema that doesn't have 4DX and Screen X or whatever, it's still a much more impactful experience. You're not going to get that on a cell phone.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing a little bit more about that new development. But I'm also looking forward to chatting to you again next week. Tat, our time has run out, but thanks for the chat.
I'll catch you next week. Take it easy, Alex.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So, a mega campus is rising in the heart of Sandton, and it's not just about bricks and mortar, but a vision for the future of private education in South Africa. And the Independent Institute of Education, also known as the IIE, officially broke ground on a state-of-the-art new campus set to open in January 2026 in the heart of Sandton. You might know it as the former F&B convention center. I didn't even know that F&B had a convention center, but there used to be one. And that's now going to be the home for around 9,000 students, cutting-edge facilities, a dedicated indoor sports center, and access to such luxuries as the Sandton train when it comes to public transport. And this new space will soon be home to Varsity College Sandton, and then also the IIE's Vega School, Johannesburg, which is very much focused in the spaces of marketing, advertising, branding, and communications. So that should be very creative, very fun. Joining me to unpack this ambitious project and what it means for students and the area is Managing Director Louise Wiseman and Sandton Campus Head Kimberly McIntyr. And thank you for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour.
Cool. Thank you very much for having us.
Wonderful. What motivated the decision to develop a new state-of-the-art campus in the heart of Sandton CBD? Because the space that you're looking at is very ambitious, and I'm sure also not a very cheap piece of ground.
Wonderful to be here with you today. And yes, it is a very ambitious project that we're taking on. And I think, first of all, being part of Advotech's group, Advotech itself is committed to offering quality education, be that schools or in higher education. Specific to Varsity College, we've been in the Sandton precinct for over 20 years now. It is a growing CBD, as you refer to the Sandton space, and one that is well supported with the infrastructure and the car train. So we believe that with the key industry that's located in that CBD, as well as the roads and facilities, it's a great area for us to build this leading campus that we are really excited to be investing in.
I'm glad you highlighted it, that you have been in this area for quite some time. Advotech, I'm a former Bond University alumni, so I remember going to campus in Sandton where the old Vega building used to be, next to Sandton Crawford, and that's many moons ago. I'm giving away too much of my age. But what are you hoping are going to be the major reshapings of this campus in terms of what it's going to look like? Because at the moment, it's a conference center. It obviously needs a bit of, it needs to be brought in line with what an academic campus needs to look like. And I'm sure there's some challenges around that.
For us, I mean, the first exciting part of this build is that it is going to be an increase in capacity for us. We've outgrown the campus in Sandton that we're in currently, and so has Vega. So we're delighted to have this size of footprint. And this allows us the first opportunity to actually have an authentic university campus, which is what we're investing in. So outside of the teaching and learning experience and the high tech and the investment into different areas, we are delighted to have the full experience of a university campus. And that's going to allow our students to be able to collaborate and have additional facilities at their fingertips as well on this precinct. I don't know if Kim wants to add anything to that.
Yes, I mean, as you said, it is definitely a conference center at the moment. And of course, because it's a conference center, it was built and designed for training. And of course, with our clear vision for this mega campus that we had even long before we purchased the conference center, we've not faced any major challenges. And in fact, there are some amazing characteristics of this conference center that we are retaining and maybe even improving. And we're quite excited to showcase those in due course.
Are you going to tell me what those are, or is that still a well-kept secret?
I might give away some as we go through today, but some are going to be kept secrets.
Okay, all right, okay. So I know that one of those features is going to be a sports centre, which seems to be quite a standout feature, if there is one. How do you believe this is going to enhance the student life? Because I think this is the first time that you're going to have something of this kind as part of your offering.
I mean, people always talk about that we need to have a work-life balance, and we really feel that the same must be said for students. They need to have a study-life balance. So our sports centre will promote, obviously, a healthy lifestyle, mental well-being for our students, but will also allow them to socialise while learning about teamwork, and something that we've picked up as teamwork is becoming more and more critical in the working world. Playing sports also boosts the students' self-confidence, and it gives them a sense of belonging in a safe place. And I think the youth of today really needs that. What we're very excited about is that we're custom designing the sports centre to accommodate the University Sports South Africa sporting competitions and the televising thereof. So we are extremely excited to be able to host other institutions and universities in our world-class indoor sports centre. That's quite exciting.
How does the proximity to things like the Sandton Gautrain station and public transport play a role in making this whole campus work? And are there also further discussions to be had with the city of Johannesburg, with Gautrain, et cetera, about feeding more into and integrating more into this campus?
Yeah, look, at the moment, because we've got students that commute from all over Gauteng, and obviously where we are at the moment, which you indicated, you know exactly where we are, we already have got shuttles to support our students with transport to and from campus and the Gautrain. So that will obviously continue. But what we're extremely excited about with the proximity of where the campus is we're now going to be on a main road, which actually offers easier access to more public transport for our students coming from all over Gauteng. And yes, we definitely need to negotiate, and we are in talks with Gautrain to try and get a bus stop pretty much outside the campus, which we're quite excited about as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. From an academic perspective, I mean, what kind of qualifications are you looking to offer now in this new space? Is it undergraduate? Is it postgraduate? Is there sort of doctorates? How far does it go?
So Varsity College will be moving with its full 5 faculties, which is the commerce, the humanities, the law, education, and science and technology. We offer qualifications from undergrad all the way up. Our master's and PhD programs are currently run through our online facility, which obviously the campus can support in providing students with guidance on, etc. And then Vega, as you highlighted a little bit earlier on, they will be relocating with their focus being on design and creative strategy.
What are your anticipated impacts for the surrounding area when it comes to this campus? I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm already thinking, demand for student accommodation. I can already see that there needs to probably be a late night rotisserie chicken or garage pie shop that needs to open very close by, because they could probably make a killing. How do you see this campus with 9,000 students adding to the flavor of Sandton Central?
Yeah, well, I mean, initially, with the hope of moving in next year, we're going to be taking over 4,500 students and 200 plus staff members into that area. And that naturally is going to increase the sales for whether it's a petrol station, the gyms, the shops, the restaurants, especially if I think of the location. I mean, across the road is a petrol station with a KFC, and literally half a kilometre is a little shopping centre. So, of course, that most certainly is going to support those businesses around the area. And as you mentioned, student accommodation, there is always a demand for student accommodation, and specifically a demand for student accommodation as close to the campus as possible. So we do believe that there is a great opportunity for providers within the area to take advantage of this. And we're in fact currently in discussion with certain student accommodation partners for the buildings that we require close to campus for students that need accommodation. So we're quite excited for what it will bring to the CBD, yes.
Final question on the rollout plan. Where are we at now? I know you've just broken ground. What are sort of the phases that we can anticipate, and when will they be completed as we build up to 2026?
We are on track still, which we're delighted about. I mean, Kim herself puts on her hard hat and Wellington boots every week and heads off onto that campus to make sure everything is falling in place for her brand. And certainly Francois with the Vega team is doing the same. So we are anticipating that we will be relocating over the months of December and January. So our student intake for 2026 will commence on that new campus. And obviously that takes quite a lot of logistics to do the relocation, but those plans are well underway. And then that campus will open with between 4,500 and 5,000 students, and the campus will be able to accommodate 9. So we've kind of built the campus in a way that the student experience will be built for the eventual phase, which could take up to close on 11 to 12,000 students. But we're building the student experience and the space and the sports center as if we've got that endpoint. And then the second phase of building, once we've reached close to that capacity of 9,000, we will then invest further because there is additional space. And with that, we would also then add on additional parking, which would be a key factor for us as well and for our students and staff.
Wow. Some big plans, some long-term plans, but the voices of Louise Wiseman and Kimberly McIntyr joining me to chat about the new Varsity College in Sandton and the new Vegas School Johannesburg campus due to open in 2026. More to come on the Sandton Times website. And Louise and Kimberly, thank you for your time on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you very much.
So much for having us.
And that wraps the 200th edition of the Sandton Times Hour for this week. Feel free to send through your questions or comments. You can do so by emailing editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Make sure you follow us on social media at Sandton Times and visit the website sandtontimes.co.za. And then save this number on your phone, 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866. And feel free to send through your voice notes and your text messages and share your thoughts. As always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you are on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and all other leading digital audio platforms, and be part of the community. Join us online. Thank you to all our guests who made the time to be on the show this week, and also the guests who formed part of the last 200 shows. Thank you to the team who pulls it all together. I think we're going to have a bit of a celebratory toast, and a special thank you to you for listening. And God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.